HFY, the alien beautiful girl, tasted human food and could not get. Inoth, alien beautiful girl, tasted human food and could not get. Nostrum light hummed across the market dome over the frontier port on the edge of the quiet arm. And a long ship rested on Pad 11, its hull like a sleeping whale. Its crew tired, hungry, and watchful. And in the bustle of traders and scouts, a young alien girl moved like a silver leaf on a slow river. Calm face, bright eyes, careful steps, and a scarf that caught the light like douche had a soft voice and a name that the human tongue could not hold. So the humans called her Aria, and it seemed to fit. For she carried herself like music, but under the calm she held a secret. She had been told never to eat human food, never to taste the heat and salt and smoke that humans loved. For her elders said it would change her, it would make her forget the laws of her clan. It would make her heart run wild. Megan ran a small kitchen near Pad 11. A square room with a narrow counter and a wide sole. A place where pilots left their worries beside the big pot of chili and picked up hope with a slice of warm cornbread. Where the wall clock ticked in steady mercy. Where the coffee never slept. Where a chalkboard held notes and tiny drawings from travelers who had no other place to leave their thanks. Megan carried a quiet strength in her hands. A kind gaze. A steady way of moving that made the room feel safe. And when Aria stepped across the threshold a little at a time, Megan saw the careful look in her eyes and the soft tremble in her fingers, and she felt a tug in her chest, like a string from her heart to the doorway. Claire, who fixed ship avionics in the stall next door, leaned in with a grin and a smear of grease on her cheek. She said that a new face meant a new story. And a new story meant someone needed a seat and a plate. And Lily, the medic from the patrol cutter, sat by the window counting out bandages and humming an old song from home, a tune about long roads, warm kitchens, and the way a hand on your shoulder can feel like sunrise. Aria stood by the doorway as if it were a border between two worlds. Her clan guards lingered out on the street, tall and silent, eyes bright like cold iron. They watched with a look that said, "Do not cross, do not taste, do not change." Yet the air in the kitchen was thick with the smell of roasted peppers and slow onions and garlic and cumin. And the scent curled like a hand around Aria and pulled her forward. Watermagen offered water first, clear and cool, simple and honest, then set down a small bowl of rice cooked with a little broth, and a spoon of beans that had simmered all morning, and a thin slice of cornbread with a drizzle of honey. Nothing loud, nothing that would frighten. Just kindness on a plateria, looked at the food the way a traveler looks at a bridge over a deep river. Then she took a breath and lifted the spoon, slow, careful, like a promise. The first taste landed on her tongue like rain on dry soil, and her eyes widened, not with shock, but with relief, as if some quiet ache at the center of her had been seen and held and soothed outside. One of the guards shifted and sent a tight hand sign to the others. A warning, a reminder that the law of the clan was not a rope to play with, that a single step off the path could start a slide down a cliff. But inside the kitchen, the world had narrowed to the simple act of tasting. To what a spoon of warm beans could do to a lonely heart. Megan said that food is how humans say hello to the soul, that when a person sits and eats, the worry inside them untangles, and the body remembers that the world has care in it. Aria nodded, then took a bite of cornbread, and the honey carried sun across her mouth, light and clean. And she let out a small sound like wind through leaves. Saw the guards move in the reflection on the window and raised a hand to Claire. Quiet and calm, a soft signal to be ready, not for a fight, but for a moment that might need kindness to win. Claire moved to the door and leaned on the frame like she was just stretching a tired back. But her eyes were steady and warm. A living barrier of welcome rather than forcheria tasted the rice. Then the beans again, then the cornbread. Then she touched the rim of the bowl with her fingertips, as if to learn the shape of gratitude. And something inside her chest loosened, a knot that had lived there since childhood. When elders told her that joy must be rationed, that flavor was a kind of storm, that calm was a duty above all, Thing's head guard stepped in. Tall and quiet, with a gaze like a locked door, he spoke in his clipped voice that this was forbidden. That human spice was a kind of heat that burned away the old ways. That the clan had lost many to the laughter and songs that rose from human tables. That the law stood for Velmagon kept her voice low and even. She said that survival is good, but living is better. That a ship can keep flying with a cracked hull for a while, but a home needs warmth or it stops being a home. She said that this food was not a trap. It was a bridge, and if the guard would like, he could test it for poison with the little wand he carried at his belt. Guard used the wand. Flash green, he was not surprised. He knew the food was safe. That was not the point. Yet Arya looked up at him with a steadiness that he had never seen in her before. A light he had not expected, and he felt his certainty move a little. As if it stood on sand, and the tide had just touched its toes. Lee spoke softly about the way human bodies calm down when the mouth tastes warm food, how the brain hears a message that says you are not alone. There is care here. You can put down the load for a while. She said that this did not only happen to humans, that hearts across the stars often listened to the same old song when Comfort Kami Claire told a story about a storm at sea. A ship full of strangers stuck together in fear, and how one small pan of warm bread passed hand to hand made the silence turn from cold to gentle. How fear can live in a room like smoke until someone opens a window. And sometimes the window is just a shared plate and a shared breath. Arya reached for a small bowl of stew that Megan had set aside with extra care, a mild mix of vegetables and herbs that would be gentle for a new tongue. She tasted it, and the flavor unfolded like a map. Roots and leaves and a hint of pepper, like a promise of adventure. And she smiled in a way that made even the wary headguard look at the floor for a moment, as if the ground had shifted. Word ran through the market that an alien girl was breaking a law for a spoon of human stew. Traders drifted toward the doorway, curious but quiet. They knew the kitchen was a small church where loud voices did not fit. They watched while Megan moved with grace, refilling water, setting down small bowls, clearing a space at the counter as if she were preparing a stage for a gentle, playa clerk from port control named Kate arrived at the edge of the crowd. She had a narrow face and a wide heart, and she carried a folder of forms and a tiny sprig of mint she kept for tea. She smelled the stew and forgot the forms for a moment, then remembered the law the clan had filed with the port. The line that said, "No human food for clan members." Signed by a stern elder with a tight hand. Kate had seen many rules. Some good, some strange, some broken. She stepped inside and spoke with care. She said that the port must respect the law that was filed. Yet the law could not stop a person from choosing. That the port could not police a mouth or a heart. That if Arya wanted this bowl, the port would not raise a hand to take it away. Guard felt heat rise under his collar. Not anger at Kate, but at the way the world was somehow moving without asking him. He had been told to keep the law, and he had kept it for years. And yet here was a small room where a bowl of stew and a smile were opening a door that no line on a form could close. Arya took another spoonful, then another, and with each taste, the room grew larger inside her. Like a field after winter, like a sky after rain. She said in her quiet voice that felt like silver string that she could feel the old fear shaking loose. Not falling away all at once, but loosening thread by thread. And she felt like a person rather than a role. Megan asked if Arya would like to see how the stew was made. Arya nodded. The guard did not forbid. He only watched with a face like a wall that had a single small crack where a flower might someday grow. Megan led Arya behind the counter, showed her the pots and the slow simmer, the little pinch of salt, the way you listen to a bubbling pot as if it were telling you how your past can rest while your future. Warm Arya touched the wooden spoon. Not like a tool, but like a friend. And Megan placed a small apron on her. Soft cotton, clean and simple, no mark of clan or port. Just a plain apron for a plain task that somehow felt holy. Arya stirred and breathed and felt an old ache clear, like dust lifting in sunlight. And the guard took one step closer without meaning, tootside the market. A message moved along the clan net. Elders asked for a report. Asked if the girl had bitten the apple of human spice. Asked if the guard had stopped it. The guard did not answer at once. He watched Arya and felt an odd peace, like the hush on a battlefield after a white flag. A soft space where new choices can be born. Claire poured coffee for Kate and Lily. The three women sat quietly and watched. They were not judges, not heroes. Just people who had worked long shifts and seen how a small act of care can turn a road that would have gone dark. They spoke of how many travelers had cried at this counter, not from pain, but from the shock of being seen when they thought no one would ever see them again.